back once more as we peek behind yet another door on the TooFatLardies Advent Calendar for 2021. And today, as we ride on the ever-growing snowball of lard towards Christmas, we find young Sidney playing in the snow and telling us about another one of his wargaming inspirations.
As a wargamer, I've always really had a fascination and a deep interest with maps. I think that there's just something about maps and a wargamer's relationship with them which makes a really immediate link with generals in history who have looked at maps of various locations and planned their campaigns and battles in respect of those maps. I think as a wargamer, that relationship that we all have with a map makes us feel as if we're really in the shoes of one of the historical counterparts that we're looking to emulate on the wargames table. I really wanted to create a set of maps for campaigning in the period that I'd chosen, which was the 17th century, but I was really stumped as to what to use for the maps. I didn't really want to use modern maps with all the details of motorways and urban sprawl, because I'd just have to scour those off the map. And also I didn't really want to use a contemporary map. Although that could be atmospheric, I thought that I'd have difficulty identifying the micro-terrain, which way the hill creates dead ground, where the placing of the woods is precisely. Those old contemporary maps don't have that sort of information. I then thought of drawing my own maps, and I have done that in the past, but the difficulty is that does take a long time, and sometimes you start a map and then you realise what you've drawn doesn't quite work and you start again and again. So as a compromise, I tried looking at some of the board games I had, and I hit upon the old Games Workshop Mighty Empires game. I had the idea of using a set of hexagon tiles to depict the terrain I wanted in a micro scale. And I used 40mm hexagon tiles in 3D MDF and also built up the terrain, both scratch building and also using 2mm scale terrain pieces from irregular miniatures. The advantage of doing this was that I could create the sort of map that I wanted, which was a hybrid between a modern map and a contemporary map. So on the one hand, I could create hills and rivers and woods and contours in a way that was pretty variable, because I could move the various hexagons round to create a new map every time I needed one. But also at the same time, I could try and create a set of tiles which depicted the terrain to be used in a way that wasn't present in contemporary maps which I'd looked at. I would have terrain tiles which would show the way precisely that a hill line looked, or exactly the confluence of various different rivers and where the bridging point was, and also exactly how the towns interacted with the features around. I wouldn't have to draw it continually, and I wouldn't have to adapt a modern map to that particular set of circumstances which I was trying to recreate. What I was doing was really trying to create an approximation of a map which would have been used by a historical contemporary in 3D, admittedly, as opposed to just on paper in 2D. But I wasn't really trying to create something which was properly scaled as regards the forts. I wanted something which had the feel of those locations. And when you look at the maps of the 17th century, or slightly earlier than that, cartographers didn't try and create every single nuance of the ground. They were trying to emphasise towns and roads and bridges, important and identifiable points of human and natural geography. I felt that was really what I was looking for as a wargamer. I wanted something which was easy to fit together, which was very versatile, which was flexible, which would give different maps and results, which could either be photographed or taken down to a wargames club and used in place to plot different movements of forces to then generate battlefield encounters. And I'd like to mention this whole project has been something which was inspired really by looking at things which were available but didn't quite meet the requirements of what I wanted. There was an old game, the Mighty Empires game, which was really a fantasy game which didn't reflect what I wanted as regards a contemporary environment which I was trying to recreate. And also I was inspired by contemporary maps which just seemed not really to give me the granular sort of detail that I needed. And also I was inspired by modern maps which have all the sort of granular detail that you need but don't look suitable for the period that I was trying to recreate. And I mention all these things because getting inspiration doesn't need to be a single source. There doesn't need to be a single point of genesis which creates something. There doesn't need to be one single spark. Inspiration can come from a mix of different things, and when you place them together, albeit in slightly different contexts, you can really create something which I think is fun and it's different and has an element of uniqueness. It's really the way in which you put different inspirations together which can really solve the problems that you're trying to fix. And it's the same in life as it is on the War Games table.